And we're back here for the final segment on day 2 of NHC 2024. Jim Miller and Emily Gullikson here at the Horseshoe in Las Vegas, and looking at the leaderboard right now. Emily, last time we talked, we thought there was going to be a little bit of movement. It's interesting, at the top, there's 2 players at 247 and 243, but then it's so packed from like 3 to like 203, it seems. It's still very tightly bunched.
Yeah, when we left the last segment, we kind of mentioned this, right? I said I didn't think it was going to move too much as far as the lead, but everything would kind of get tightened up a little bit. Tony, we're bringing you in. What did you kind of think about the middle of the day, what the scores are, and what you kind of think it'll be at by the end of day 2?
I think the leader will make sense. You have a lot of clumping in the middle, and then you have a few guys trying to aim for the moon, so you're going to have outliers. So
right.
That's typically, what's going to happen. So I bet although Seth Morris did play 11 optional, so maybe that's why he has a big score. But this is what I expect. You're going to have a few people trying to hit the outliers, trying to win this thing, and other people trying to stay in the bunch and trying to collect, 10, 20 grand. That's my guess.
Sure.
But obviously, maybe someone didn't hit or whatever. But this looks about normal.
So looking at how your day is played, though, you have a couple of tickets that you're playing. Have things been kind of pretty even? You're sticking together with picks on both of your tickets?
95% of my picks are the same. The only time I spread is mandatories.
Okay.
Some of the mandatories have no clue, so I'm just trying to kick up points. But if I'm playing optional, I want to make sure I have on both tickets.
Okay.
Because my goal is not to make my goal is to win it, because I have
Yep.
the bonus that
Right.
you guys gave me. So
So not just one, you have your bonus on both, which
yeah.
kind of makes it easier. You don't have to try to get too creative or try to say, here's a better opinion on one. You can play them exactly how you want to play them without having that extra variable.
Yeah.
So when we talked earlier, this was kind of like a little break after the mandatory, and you're like, my job here, I still have got some work to do. So like, you're happy with the way that you're playing, but I know you have a goal in mind and you're still targeting that goal, and what's kind of happening here maybe is irrelevant to what you're trying to do.
Yeah, I'm not paying attention. I just want to put up as high a score possible. I'm trying to get both tickets in there, because the value of the dual tickets, it's not very valuable right now until you get to day 3 or to the final table.
Right.
Because you don't have all those people behind you.
Right.
So, I don't know. I'm trying my best to get this bonus equity alive.
Well, and that's the best way to do it, because it does come into strategy, and some people that are playing 2 tickets were talking about that. It's almost as much a strategy of blocking for some as it is to getting to that point that you're able to block. Mm-hmm. So you're sitting in pretty good position right now, and having that $1 million bonus out there, it's a little bit different for how you play, because there's others, hey, you're playing for $800,000. Well, you could be playing for $1.8 million. So for you have to continue to be aggressive, though.
Even $800,000, I'm going to play for the win, no matter what. But this, clearly, I mean, it's going to sound weird to say this, but second would be a disaster.
Okay. Like, no, it doesn't sound weird. No, not at all, actually. Considering what you have, considering what, even without the bonuses, it kind of still seems like it, but with the bonuses, definitely.
I'm trying to set myself up so either I win or finish out of the money. I'm not trying to aim for the middle. I'm trying to really gamble and trying to get that. I mean, if I have a horse that I really like, I will play. So I did all these simulations, and usually you have to play prices, but there's certain situations like mandatories you can play shorter prices, but options you got to play bombs, right? You got to play prices, and it's worked out this year.
Right.
The first few years I played this, I was playing it like my day-to-day, getting value. Here I'm trading a bit of value for the prices. So say I have a 20-1 that I think is, flat edge, 0%.
Yep.
I need that 4-1 to be plus 15, or I need a 10-1 to be plus 8. So I have a whole chart of like, when do I take the bomb and when do I take the lower price?
Sure.
So rarely I'm taking low price, but when I take low price, that means I have a fat overlay on that horse. Yeah.
And you're sitting today at a point where this is a long day, and we've talked about this. I mean, you're coming to the end of the day, but you still have some optionals in your pocket, where there's some others that have used them up, but bringing a track like Turfway in with some larger fields and a different surface. You're getting Santa Anita, for example, some of the bigger fields there. Is this the position you wanted to be in, where you said, okay, I still have a couple of plays left later in the day? Was that how you were planning it out?
Look, I'm fortunate. I'm happy where I am, but what I want to be is 1-2 going to final table. Okay. And then my $1 million equity is massive, because I'm just blocking everybody. So I'm trying to play where I'm going to final table like, 2-5 to win or 4-5 to win, but I got to get there first. We'll see. I don't know. I mean, I ran well the last 2 days. Okay. But I do need a really outlier day. Okay. Because my intended goal is literally only first.
Right. Yeah. And I was like, I know you probably had, since you've run simulations, maybe like a plan like A, B, C, D, like kind of going through. Have you kind of had to say where you're? Honestly, maybe not.
Yeah, I looked through the card, and I didn't have as many like ideas as there were a number of optionals. So the other 3 or 4, it was just kind of seeing the toe and getting signal from there. And like I hit a cap where I think it was Tampa Laurel earlier.
Okay.
And that was not a pre-planned race. That's something that just popped up. It was like, wow, something is funny here.
Sure.
So I have a group about, I don't know, there was what, 16, 12 options. I don't remember the exact
12
number.
optionals
Yeah,
today,
12
right?
optionals,
Yep.
8 mandatories.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
you know, I didn't have that many ideas, but the other 2 or 3, I'll find it out.
Okay.
What's great about, look, this is not my preferred format, because my preferred format is Hawthorne format.
Yeah.
Anything goes, because you can really flex your skill when you have freedom. You know, as many tracks you want, whatever bet type.
Right.
When you have flexibility, you can execute your skill. The problem here, the only thing you can kind of move around is, you know, like how you play it. Like, you know, the odds range that you play. So that's tough.
Right.
And how you play it. You know, do you press your opinion both on one ticket? Like how you play it. This is philosophies.
So the one thing that you mentioned though is you've been able to kind of pivot a little bit based on the board and based on the tote. And so coming into the day, when you're handicapping these races, how much time are you putting forth at that time ahead of time, and how much of it is, hey, I'm coming up to that and let's see where the value lies?
Yeah, so I have like 2 lists of optionals. I have one option that's like pure value.
Okay.
I'll play any day. And I have another list that's like, it's value in this room.
Okay.
Meaning, I would never bet it in cash.
Yep.
But it likely will not be covered by the rest of the room.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I play a really funky long shot,
Right.
not obvious long shot. That makes sense.
Yeah, no, I
Welcome
did.
to
I did like a fair, some action there. I did like a fair odds line for this tournament.
Yeah.
Like for one of the mandatory races, I made like a fair odds line, and I was like, this is a fair odds line for this tournament, not if I was making a fair odds line for a race on Saturday to go out to the public. You know, so it's like it's so weird to like explain that, but you're like, I wouldn't play this horse in this tournament unless it's, you know, X. So it did look like it was what, the 7 at 23 to
7 was
Wow.
7 at
Yeah.
23 to 1 there at
Okay,
Santa
yeah.
Anita.
Well,
And then the
that's
4
why I
and
need some
second.
bullets to protect later
Yep.
insurance policy.
Right.
You know,
Well,
especially
and-
later on, the more people can have that.
Yeah.
Early on, no one has bombs. So
Right.
hit bombs early.
Right.
Here, everyone's gonna have it. At least have some optionals to block.
Right, and you have to play it that way, kind of knowing where you are, where everything's positioned, what your number's at, knowing that, okay, there's the confidence that I can get to that final day because I'm going to be above the cut line, but then it's that play to win mentality, and that's something that I like. Hey, let's go strike and let's just keep going after it too.
Yeah.
And let's touch on that real quick, just because so it doesn't go away as far as playing that bomb early. Being like, early in the day, people don't have to play that horse. Now, at this point in the day, there's people that if they have any shot, they're like, there's only so many options, there's only so many bombs, that more people are playing it just because there's very few. So, yeah.
When you're behind, you want to be uncorrelated. I mean, you want bonds that no one else is picking.
Correct.
When you're ahead, then you want to start being correlated.
Right.
So I have a list of uncorrelated stuff and a list of correlated stuff.
Right.
Especially pace. Any bonds pace, you know it's going to be covered.
Yep.
So I'm trying to pick bombs in like breeding, mating claiming races, turfway, stuff like this.
Well, and you mentioned that because, okay, that race right there, you heard a whole lot more cheering at 23 to 1 for that spot there than you would have heard if it was 4 hours ago that race was going to be run. It was going to be a handful then. There's probably 25, 30 people in the room that are probably all on that horse, and they're probably chasing quite a bit as well, too.
Yeah.
Right, that's why you can't get comfortable. You have to keep on pressing the gas button because there's 600 people chasing after you. Once it gets down to maybe day 3 or final table, then you can relax a little bit. But now there's just so many people, everything's covered. You know, you have to have it. You have to run extremely well. Extremely well.
So you got 2 more mandatories left to go, 3 more optionals. Have you put in any of your plays yet, or are you going to wait right up to the?
I got to see the tote. Yeah.
Okay.
You know, it's all price dependent. I can come in one horse and flip to another horse. I did that many times today.
Sure.
So,
And it works out sometimes. There's some days where it works, sometimes where you pivot.
Just got to
and you
trust
don't.
the process. Exactly.
Yeah.
Trust the process. My worst sometimes doesn't. It hasn't worked for me many years, but I think I spent a bit of time on this. I think this tournament is a lot more about game theory than about the actual capping of the horse. It's like you have to cap the other handicappers more than the horses. Really.
Yeah, for sure.
You know,
and you said trust the process. You said, well, it hasn't worked, but you trusted it enough that you just kept going and riding that. I think that's so key.
I wrote a controversial piece about a few years after I ended up like, why am I doing so poorly? And I ran simulations of like what odds ranges you need. And I said, okay, if you have very little experience or very little time to prep, clearly if you're a world-class handicapper, then pick what you like. But if you're here, a lot of people here just come randomly or they're not playing horses all the time.
Right.
A very good basic strategy, like blackjack, basic strategy would be just pick horses over 10 to 1. right? And it's going to put you in contention, right? But if you're an elite handicapper, then you can get away with going a lower odds range. Like, for example, a 20-to-1 capper, you need a 15% overlay on 4-to-1s, on every single 4-to-1. I don't know any handicapper in the world that can 50% overlay on every 4-to-1 to overcome a only bomb strategy.
Sure.
And I ran those numbers, so like I trust the math, I trust the process. I'm not going to trust gut instinct or a feel.
Right.
But a lot of people disagree, which is good.
But we've heard, we've heard it numerous times from very good handicappers that say you could basically zero out in a contest like this, and your strategy was correct.
Correct.
And
Absolutely.
It's just the way the horses play, the way the races are running that. But one week it can be a 0, and the next week it can be $300 in a similar contest.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Somebody that's trying to shoot just to make the cut will end up getting zeros in the long run, like zero cashing in the long run. Yeah.
I think towards the end, I think this is a common mistake. Towards the end, people get very conservative trying to make day 3. Right. That's like the poker equivalent of making a bubble. Right. That's not you're not playing a tournament to make the bubble.
So this is going to be interesting. There's a 4-horse inquiry objection here.
And
you're talking the top 2 are 23-to-1 on top of 7-to-1. And California is notorious for some very interesting disqualifications at times. So you're going to see some hemming and hawing one way or the other.
Oh shit, that's going to come down. That's going to come down.
In my world, that's an as-is. Nothing changes there. But in California, you never know.
There's one thing for sure. There's going to be a lot of bad beat stories after this race.
Yeah, oh my gosh. And that's all it's going to be. Yeah. But you're going to look at every single angle here. Did the horse move a little bit?
Alexa,
yeah. Did he really interfere with
race?
anybody to affect the outcome of the race? Probably not. Yeah. But
so you are in this race.
And you don't know how they're going to rule, right? You have no clue how they're going to rule.
Right. Yeah. So we'll see how things unfold. But Tony, we want to let you get back to your table. Yeah. Best of luck to you. You're doing great. Hey, $1 million down the line. We're the only ones that offered $1 million, so you got 2 shots at it.
And that's why I love Hawthorne. Playing Hawthorne, guys. I'm being commercial. I'm not, seriously.
Right.
You can flex your skill. It doesn't matter what pool, what track.
Right.
Money's green, the same. So just get to the number, and that makes it. This is tough because you can only flex. Race selection, you can't flex all the other items.
Right.
So here, there's a lot more luck involved. So if there's a lot more luck involved, you better leverage luck.
Right.
So.
Well, you're rolling.
Awesome.
Best of luck.
I really hope you make it to the final table.
Twice.
Yes, we have a little thing with
twice.
with our friend, our Twitter friend that's going to come in.
Watching.
Yeah. Hey, Roger.
Best of luck to you. Right. Thank you again for coming out, and hopefully we're seeing you at the final table tomorrow.
Thank you.
You got Tony Zhou joining us here on day 2 of NHC 2024. The man has been rolling throughout the course of the weekend, and Emily, we've talked with numerous people. I was on with Steve Bick earlier, and we had our insurance guy sitting right there talking about the $1 million bonus. Come on in, Alexa. So the fact that the $1 million bonus is on the line is something that's really cool for a lot of these players. Alexa's up joining us. You've played our contest in the past, the Horseplayers Invitational.
I qualified the first time ever for NHC at Hawthorne.
There it goes. You're having a good day today, huh?
I'm on fire this weekend.
That's good.
You lost your voice, but you're scoring in the tournament, so it's a good trade-off.
I did, yes, yeah.
How's the day gone for you? How did it start for you after day 1, and how's the progression been here on day 2?
So day 1 was really good. My tickets were at 120 and like 71.
Okay.
And then today, again, I did really good. They're both around 190, 180 something. Okay. So they were both in the top 10 for a while.
Yep.
I think they're now in the top 20, but it's all so very close.
Right.
And those numbers, I mean, the top 10, the top 20 is really at this point really based on your dollar amount, right? Because it's like $1 is a couple of spots. Yeah. It's like kind of irrelevant.
No, I'm like
bankroll.
$15 or $20 from second place or something in the tournament. It's like 1 horse away. So.
Right. So we're coming up to the next mandatory Turfway, so we don't want to keep it for super long, so you can make sure you get we can make sure you get your wagers in. Yeah. But just wanted to ask you, so you're at that level of kind of comfort of being above the cut? No, just for being above the cut line. But not the comfort for now pushing for the top 10.
Yeah, I've never made the cut before, so I feel like a winner.
Okay.
But I want to win.
Well, and that's good, and you got to play to win.
Yeah, I am playing to win. I'm not like taking any easy shots. Like I've followed my process the whole week, and it's working out. So I'm just trying to like stay calm. It's a little nerve-wracking, but I'm just staying calm.
You're doing great.
Yeah, I know. I'm excited.
So how many optionals do you have left?
I have 1 optional left on one, and the other one I'm out. So just the 2 mandatories on both, and then the
How were you kind of still trying to keep them together for the most part, or was your plan with them? If I have a strong opinion, it's on both. Was it more of
I have
your
played a
opinion?
lot of the same ones on both, but not all.
Okay.
Like today, my second ticket was the one that was farther back, and I've now they're matched, so I hit like a ton on that today. So
that's
playing
really,
differently.
Yeah, that's pretty rare. That's pretty rare. Was that is that a strategy that you've used in the past with 2 entries and it kind of works for you, that you've kind of known how you can kind of leverage both of them? Oh, they kept it.
So they left it as is.
I was hoping they'd take it down.
Yeah. We were talking with Tony about that. That was the one place where you might have been unsure, is California, based with an inquiry like that. A lot of other places that would have been an as is.
That's a true capper right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep, they left it there. So there's going to be some movement on the board, which we'll see. But and that's one of those things, especially later in the day, because you have 2 different groups. You kind of have that group that's chasing, that has to have that price. So there's a lot more people on that horse than if it would have been played much earlier on in the day.
Absolutely.
So.
I mean, bombs at the end of the day like shift stuff a lot more than. But I have noticed like I have a pretty good score where a lot of the scores aren't really moving a whole lot on the leaderboard.
Right.
So, but still, every price that comes in, you're and
again, you want to win, so it's like you don't want to lose. Position doesn't really matter. You just don't want to lose too much ground as far as money. That you're having to like play things out of your comfort zone, or maybe get a little uncomfortable and things like that, just because you're trying to win. At this point. Well, I know
let's take a look at the turfway signal as horses are going to be walking on the track at turfway. Emily's able to look over my shoulder. I'm kind of checking the screen, but we want to make sure that Alexa gets her wagers in.
Yeah, I have like 3 minutes before I have
so they're walking on the track. So we're going to cut you loose so you can go and get your wager in. But we wanted to thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Absolutely.
It's been a really good 2 days with 2 tickets for you. So hopefully you're able to play that strategy with the 2 tickets against each other tomorrow.
I think so. Let's do it.
All right, we got it. Alexa's Zepp joining us there. Thank you for swinging by so quickly here. Alexa's doing a great job. She's played our Hawthorne contests in the past, and she's played them so well. Emily, we talked earlier when we were talking with Christy about it, how you're seeing so many good female handicappers. You're a very good handicapper. Alexa, Christy's a very good handicapper. It's good to see that they're making their mark in this contest too, and playing so smartly. I mean, Christy has been saving those picks and saving, and now we started to see her play a couple of them. Last I saw, she was sitting like 4th on the leaderboard.
Yeah,
it's a really smart tendency the way she's played.
It's funny because I think like as a woman player, other people make more of a deal out of it than like women. It's like for us, it's just as natural as anybody else. So it's like, maybe there's fewer women playing, but it's not any different than being anybody else. So it's like everybody's making a big deal. Oh, girls are doing well. You're like, why wouldn't we? Like what? Why wouldn't we be doing well? There's just fewer that that. But I mean we're seeing today, and it's only a matter of time before that, just because of variance and things like that. But I mean, as good a shot and as good as players, handicappers, day in and day out as anybody.
Right, and you're seeing younger players too. I mean, that's the cool thing. I mean, Alexa, all right, she's a younger player, but she's very experienced. She's played she's played in a lot of the top tournaments and had a lot of great results. She's rolling here, so we'll see kind of how things unfold for her. But hey, so far so good. She's off to a really good start through 2 days, and
speaking
see
of
how
good
things
starts,
unfold. Mike, have you gotten your play-in for this mandatory?
I have, yes.
Okay, so we don't have to worry about you for that. Now, Mike, we've been talking a little bit earlier as Mike Wilkening joins us. There are so many different ways to qualify for the NHC through Hawthorne. We have our Horseplayers Invitational. We have some of our different contests, but we had an online contest that we ran last year that you had to make sure that you stayed involved in throughout the course of the year. That was the contest that got you into the NHC. And that was one where, I mean, you talk about a marathon. That was a marathon to go through that contest, but it's turned out pretty good. You've had a pretty good weekend thus far.
It was, thank you. And I'd call it more of a long distance train ride, because I'd handicap on the train on Thursdays, so I commute into the city, and then obviously I'd play at home on Sundays. But yeah, that was one where I got off to a good start and just sort of rode it out, and it was life and death to sort of hang on, nails in the dashboard to win.
Sure.
And yeah, obviously that was beyond my wildest dreams, and this is, you know.
That is such a hard run, and this is your first NHC that you've qualified for, and you're having a good run here and keeping it going. What's kind of your experience as far as tournaments, like other than playing the online here? Are you
very limited? I'm someone, I play a weekend warrior, if you will.
Okay.
So I mean, I've got a family and 2 kids, and so it's funny. I like tournaments. It's probably something. Now I would imagine this will change a little bit in terms of the ability to sort of go out and do it. Quite obviously, I will be involved in what Hawthorne does.
Yep.
And, want to interject real quick and say what you guys do for the horse player in terms of the type of contest, the support of the player, the variety of ways that people can get involved is really wonderful.
Absolutely, yeah.
I
appreciate that.
I'm not necessarily someone that's going to come in for like the $300 or $400 buy-in necessarily, because I got kids. It's on the weekend. It's a little difficult. Now, my wife might be more willing to kind of say, "Oh, this is great now that this is sort of gone okay to this point." But yeah, it's there's a lot of points of entry, a lot of ways to get in with Hawthorne, and that to me is sort of what separates you in terms of the online experience from a content standpoint.
And being local, that's also a benefit because you have some of that. Now, once you did qualify, what has been kind of your preparation to be like, okay, now I qualified for the NHC. What's kind of my training, right? Did you kind of go through that process coming up to here?
I did.
Okay.
So, my weakness, I think, as a tournament player here is that tracks like Gulfstream is a place I don't typically do well. So I knew that was going to be a big one. So I tried to stay as much away as I could. But I like Turf Lane. I like Golden Gate. I love Golden Gate. I'm going to really miss the Golden Hour Double when it's gone.
Yeah.
The Golden Hour Double has been very good to me. I play Santa Anita, and again, I kind of go back to family. My windows to play are after my 3-year-old is down for a nap and up, and we kind of for dinner on Saturdays. I have a time to maybe put a few plays in there. So that's sort of what I've gravitated towards as much as anything else. But from a prep standpoint, I thought I was going to do more, but so the real world intervenes. You work, you do things, and you go, you obviously keep an eye on things, you read the charts, you do all the things, but I didn't do the intense study that I thought I was going to. Life gets in the way of best plans, as we know.
Well, and here's the thing that's super cool. So you qualify through an online contest. You get here, and then you're having success. You're rolling through. Your bankroll's sitting about $180 right now, so you're in a pretty good position. We'll put up the Turfway race in a minute. You want to tell us who you played in this race or no?
I played the 7.
Okay, so you played the 7, but you're in a position where hopefully you churn out just a little bit more, and you can be at that spot where, hey, I'm past the cut line, and then I can start looking to maybe make my mark a little. So if you do continue to do that, what happens now when you go home and you're talking to my wife and saying, hey, okay, this horse racing thing's done pretty good for me?
You start from a stronger position in terms of that conversation than if you lose, I suppose. So that's good. It's always good to start from a foundation standpoint. But my wife is wonderful. She's actually in, but I took her around, showed her the room this morning.
Okay.
For about 5 minutes, she kind of looked around and said, I'm going to go to the Wind Spa today. So that's what she did. So she has it all.
So it turns into a weekend, though. It becomes kind of a vacation for you.
She thinks this is great. She does
and it's probably a confidence builder for yourself as well, as trying to be like making that decision as far as like going that next step as far as being a weekend warrior. Like, this is something that I love. This is something that I have fun with, and it's something that I can feel confident in myself in doing.
Yeah, because as you know, life is a function of what capital you have and what time you have to put towards it, right? And so from my standpoint, if you have some success, you have a little more capital, and you also have maybe a track record that shows you can do it a little bit more, maybe that's something we get into. I guarantee you it's something we probably will do more this year, because it's the first taste of this. I certainly want to come back.
Right. Oh yeah, I remember the first time I ever walked into a live tournament room at the Orleans. It was when you could buy in for $500. As soon as I walked in the room, I was like, this is where I'm meant to be. I am this coming in here, this is perfect, and just kept coming back. Yeah, and that's why so many people want to come back and spend so much time to qualify, because they don't want to be sitting at home while this is going on.
And the beauty of racing today is, of course, from an ADW standpoint, you can play from anywhere, you can play in your phone. Right. But we're siloed, we're isolated, and There's something to be said for getting out and interacting with people,
Yeah.
being in the room, getting the vibe of things, seeing how other people sort of ply their trade. And to me, that's what I've liked about as much as anything else.
Right.
Is you just kind of horse players are a unique group. It's nice to see a bunch of them in a room. We don't see a lot of each other. We're like we're like a rare penguin of sorts that doesn't see a lot of other penguins.
Yeah, and even looking around the room, it's like this eclectic group of people you couldn't find in any other scenario. There's so many people in different, even just us three sitting at the table.
Right.
There's so many differences going on.
But everybody's so welcoming. I mean, it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from. They're all here for the same reason. They're horse players. And this is the one thing that even though you're in competition, everybody kind of cheers for one another too.
Yep.
They're like, yeah, I want to do well, but if I don't, I want this other person sitting at my table to do well too. So that's one of the things that has to be cool for you, especially coming over to the NHC and seeing this massive ballroom behind us and seeing kind of how things unfold as you're watching the race go out here. So we'll see what happens. You're sitting on the 7 horse that you had mentioned. The horse was about 17-1 that I saw as they loaded into the gate. So when you're watching races like this, of course, you're cheering for your horse. If it's not your horse in the position you're in, are you then just hoping, okay, it's favorite?
Oh yeah. I mean, if Driftwood wins this race right now as is, I'd be more than happy with that.
Right.
Yeah, you have the chalk as defense, right? Because there's nobody that has that.
Yeah.
What was kind of your, not necessarily like your handicapping process as far as picking the 7, but your thought process as far as what you wanted to get out of this race from like an odds point standpoint?
I mainly looked at the fact that this is a horse going back down to 5,000. She had run well at the level last time, and had shown a little bit of foot in a race where, and this is a circuit where really if you're not near the lead, it feels like you're
Right.
And
up
you should have been
against.
close. I don't know if you saw the first turn, but the horse did have some trouble.
Yeah.
But I want to know, like, in terms of, let's say those factors were in play, but the odds were 4-1. Would that have impacted your decision?
I would have.
You wouldn't have picked something.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to.
So you were looking for a horse at double-digit odds.
You have to look for it. Yeah. So.
And looking at it right now, I mean, you're sitting there with favorite, second choice, and then another 2-1 and 6-1 coming. So the other thing that happens, okay, if you're not in the mix, nobody's going to make a massive move in this race too. And that's the thing for the mandatories is kind of the way that you have to look at that
like
as well.
A 6-1 over 9-2.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It could be worse.
And the 4, the 4 was logical. That was another one I looked at, and I mean, c'est la vie, I suppose.
But your thought process was you were into that race.
Yep.
You wanted a double-digit horse. Was that kind of
That's
what?
typically how I've gotten through this.
Sure.
That's how I typically approach it.
It's worked for you during the day.
What can I say, Jim? I don't know. It's been something. What I find is that you have cold spells where if you're looking for prices. So what I try to say to myself is process over results in situations like this. You have to, you've got to look at it that way. And, for instance, one of the early Gulfstream races today, there was a Kelsey Danner horse. I think it was like 23-1. They tried to get the horse on grass. Once on synth, once on dirt, had not run well. They got him on grass today. And he ran well. He ran 5th, but and that was a play I didn't come into the morning saying I was going to make. And I said, well, at least did what he was supposed to do. He's on the surface he's supposed to be at, and if you approach it that way, you'll probably be okay the rest of the way. So.
And if it looked better, it wouldn't be 25-1.
That's correct.
Right. Those are the reasons why you're getting that price compensation.
Yeah, I'm willing to forgive a lot of flaws as a handicap.
Sure, and you have to be able to sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, look at me. I have to. You're gonna be forgiving,
Yeah. I mean, again, it comes down to prices. There's usually reasons why you're getting price compensation. Sometimes not. Sometimes it's a horse that you're like, the public is just not seeing this trip 3 back, and this horse should be 4-1, and it's sitting on this race, or. It's a first-time starter that you've watched work in the morning, and you're like, this horse can run, but no one knows because the work looks slow on paper. There's things, but generally long shots are, there's a shot. If there's a weak favorite, there's some equity in there.
Yeah, it's I like muddying factors.
Yeah.
So that's the way I've always approached it. But more than anything, I think I've always been a pace handicapper, and so I sort of I start from the perspective of, if we're on dirt, how fast can the horse go the first quarter mile, first half mile? To me, it's the greatest indicator of talent in a lot of cases, particularly the cheaper we go. I'm not really concerned the cheaper we go in terms of where horses sort of end up from a figure standpoint. If they can run fast to the half mile, you get a bad enough field, they generally can sort of stagger home a little bit, faster than the others, relatively speaking.
Right. So Mike, we'll see how things wind up for you. You're sitting around $180 right now. Looking at it, it looks like it's going to be right around 170 probably for that mark for making it. So you're in a good spot. You still have some plays left today.
Yep.
But first NHC, you're doing awesome. Hawthorne qualifier. We want to thank you for joining us. We want to wish you the best of luck too, and hopefully we're seeing you at the final table tomorrow.
Well, I want to say thank you, Jim, and I want to say thanks to Hawthorne in the sense that when it comes down to it, again, this is an opportunity that I wouldn't have got at other tracks. There aren't a lot of free contests, and again, like Emily mentioned, this idea of the vibe, just being there.
Yeah.
I told somebody I was on cloud 10 today. I think it's cloud 11. So I appreciate the support of Hawthorne.
Yes.
Again, thank you for the opportunity.
Well, and it turned into a great weekend for you, a great weekend for you and your wife. You're out here in Vegas, and you're doing well. So this is an awesome experience, and it's something that you get to build off, too. This is a first NHC. I'm betting you it's probably not going to be your last.
Let's hope so. Onward and upward.
There you go.
Yeah. Keep your eyes on the prize. Try to win this thing.
Yep.
You got it.
Go for it. Mike Wilkening joining us here, one of our Hawthorne qualifiers. Thank you, Mike. Best of luck to you throughout the course of the tournament as we are on day 2 of NHC 2024. Looking at the leaderboard right now, again, there's not a ton of movement. 247.20 with Seth Morris at the top.
That's a good score, 247 for a typical
TJ has played this beautifully, but we talked to Christy earlier, and Christy was holding her bullets till late, and Christy Morris currently sitting at third.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a plan, and the same thing with TJ. I think he moved late, so probably turf play. Dave, welcome. I know that you follow this a lot from a numbers standpoint. As far as the scores on day 2, do you think these are pretty normal day 2 scores as far as kind of who's leading and what the kind of that top cutoff looks like?
Yeah, I think generally when we come out here, we're kind of aiming for like 175, 180 with 2 extra optionals. Sometimes that lowers the score a little bit. But I when that we've seen a bunch of bombs come in at the end of the day, and those matter much more because everyone, the 70-1 earlier, I don't know how many people had it, but like the one that just came in at Santa Anita, I'm sure a ton of people had it because you gotta reach a little bit at the end. So
when you say it matters more, what does that matters more mean?
I think there's a hesitation a little bit probably to like play something like a 70-1 early in the day, because if it runs last like it's probably supposed to, you kind of feel foolish, and then later on in the day you might have a horse that you like and you don't get to play it. So I mean, there's very different strategies in terms of like when you use your optionals. Christy Moore is the person I looked at earlier in the day. I was kind of like looking at the top 100 and seeing how many optionals people had used, and everybody had like 7, 8, 9, and one of her entries she had 1.
Yeah.
So she was going to be firing at the end of the day, and she's made a huge move.
Well, we were talking to her earlier on in the day, and that was kind of her plan going into it. I want to hold my bullets till late and wait and see. And she played the mandatories really well, and put her in this position for the optionals where she's sitting in 3rd or 4th, and it's. You have that focus of, okay, I want to get in a position. Now I want to win.
Absolutely. And you might be able to fire at stuff that other people won't be able to because they used all their optionals. So you're free rolling just a little bit on that. So.
It's going to be curious. They're saying there's, I think, what they say, 6 races left today to play. So those with optionals are it's trimming down, but they're also having to look at, okay, what's going to be the cut line and what's going to be the line to really make that move. And there's that difference between above the cut line and below the cut line for about 30 spots is probably going to be about $10-12.
Yes. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was going to say there's 6 races left, but also you have to look at what are those 6 races, right? So like if I'm
more mandatory.
If I'm looking at Golden Gate Fields, there's or the Golden Gate and Santa Anita, you both have somewhat compact fields with heavy favorites.
Right.
So are these races that are really races that you want to get involved in? Maybe not. Maybe,
in a way, though, like this race coming up at Santa Anita, when you have a 2 to 5 shot, you're going to get 3 of the 6 horses are basically like cap horses now. They're probably not going to win, but if you need that amount, it very much becomes like a math game at the end. How much, if I need $50, then I probably need like a 16, 17 to 1 shot.
Sure.
Well, I'm getting 3 in this race. They might not win, but like if you look at Golden Gate, you might have 0 horses that will get you there. So.
Right. Talk about the atmosphere a little bit here on day 2. You have the 20 races that everybody gets to play. You've had some cap horses that have come in. So you're seeing a little bit more of the hooting and hollering. You had a 23 to 1 shot at Santa Anita that stayed up after an inquiry, but just the overall atmosphere, the amount of players that are out here in the venue as well.
It was very interesting when that inquiry came up because you never really want to be rooting against anybody, but there are definitely people who would have been better served if that horse had come down.
Sure.
So when that popped up, there was a lot of hooting and hollering, like, hey, maybe this won't be so bad, and that's probably primarily people in like the 60 to 80 range who didn't have that horse.
Sure.
And then the thing in this room is that when you hear all the hooting and hollering for a horse like that, it always sounds like way more people have it than they actually do.
Yes,
right.
for sure.
It sounds like half the room had that horse, and then you look and like the top 10 didn't change
And
very much.
a
How's that
handful of people
possible?
made that move.
Right.
But it might have been, it's people that are like, they've got nothing to lose.
Right.
They've got nothing to lose. That play that horse because, like you said, it's late in the day. You have to play that horse based on what's kind of left. Now, when you mentioned this, there are some cap horses in here, but do you factor in the fact that like if the one runs second to like the 3 who's 16 to 1, it's probably not going to be a true cap horse. Would you say if that's somebody who's like, would that be something that is worthwhile to consider as far as?
I would consider that. I know. Just because I play a certain way I don't think that means like that's the right way. There are plenty of people in this room who play a different way, and I get it. I know certain people who won't even, at this point, don't even need to like look at the form. It's like,
just
okay, I need
numbers.
this.
Yep.
I need this, so I'm playing this.
Right.
And if the one comes in second, well, that's a little tough, but like I need this.
Sure.
And this race is affording me that opportunity. So,
Right.
So if it's somebody who needed $64, that might be something that they would consider. If it's somebody who needed 50, they needed 40, maybe they're like, because my place price probably isn't going to be the full.
That 23 to 1 shot that came in, that didn't pay full $64.
Right.
But I'm sure everyone who had it was pretty happy with what they
Sure.
got.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah.
And then talk about the weekend. I mean, we've talked about just how it's enjoyable, but it's a long weekend. I mean, first chance, last chance Thursday. Everybody still is involved in a contest tomorrow, no matter what the outcome. I mean, it's a format that keeps you around for 4 days, but also keeps you around with good interest, because even if you're not above the cut line, you can still make some money on Sunday too.
Absolutely. It's definitely tough in Vegas to stay engaged for 4 days straight.
Yeah.
So I kind of like the changes that they made to the format for tomorrow. I think it makes people really want to participate more. Oddly enough, for me personally, yesterday, even though it was less races, felt longer.
Yep.
Today, I think because you're just frantically trying to keep track of everything, it just whips by. I looked up and it was like Tampa race 6, and I was like, wow, they're almost done. And, but yet Turfway hadn't even started yet, so it's kind of a weird thing.
Well, and you think about that too. I mean, we're out here in Vegas, so you're in the Pacific time zone. People are coming down, having breakfast and preparing for their first play of the day, and then people are getting ready for dinner as you're getting to the last play of the day. So it's a long day, and for those that have to put in a ton of work based on whatever their handicapping strategy is, it could be a very long night. So for you, when you were looking to kind of prepare for these, how much work goes into it ahead of time? How much of it is playing the board and kind of your layout for your tickets?
I hope the results don't say this, but I hope my preparation has gotten better.
Okay.
Especially this year, I got so much done prior to coming out here. I think even just like coming down to the room in the morning, you might be like, oh, I'm going to get organized and everything, and you just start chatting with people, and you're there's announcements and all this other stuff. So like even this morning, I stayed up in my room until like 3 minutes before the first race.
Okay.
And then I'll come down and kind of do that.
Right.
So I tried to do as much as I could before I flew out here, and it made it a little bit easier. Like I have everything for tomorrow done, so it's
It's nice to have that, just to have that preparation, because it's a little bit more. You can sit back, you can enjoy yourself a little bit more, like you said.
Well, you're fresh when
go
you
and visit,
play.
yeah.
You're fresh when you play. I mean, that's the big thing. Is like there's so many decisions, and if you're tired and you're mentally going. I mean, today's day 2 of this main tournament, but for many people it's day 3, and mentally and physically it feels like day 30 by the end of this day, and so like any edge that you can kind of get to keep yourself fresh for these long days makes a difference.
Yeah, and it's also interesting, like in terms of like different strategy and stuff. Some people only handicap 3, 4, 5 tracks, even though there's 9 tracks. You don't have to do everything. You probably get more sleep that way.
Well, and it's interesting because Turfway is the track that's been brought into the contest this year, and there are a lot of people that are very pleased by that. It's larger fields, some bigger prices, and then some people that just focus in Kentucky. So it has been one of the things where having that offering helps. I heard some groans when they said Fairgrounds was canceled for tomorrow, because there's some people that will focus on that circuit and larger fields and that kind of stuff. So there is that preference with more optionals to be able to play a circuit at least that you like, but it's one of those things too, it does make it very hard if you're trying to cover everything. So we'll see how things unfold. We're having race 8 here at Santa Anita. Like they mentioned, they're winding down for things. Did you play this race, Pi?
I did not.
Okay, so we're not having to sit there and say, okay, we're hoping for that 60 to 1, or we're hoping for a cap horse or anything.
I will have to put in something for Golden Gate in 12 minutes.
Okay.
Well,
we do have that as well. There's 2 different mindsets that are going to come as they're watching this race too. You're going to have that group that's saying, okay, I want the Chosen Brawn to just go ahead and run on, and nobody is really making an impact. And you're going to have some others that are saying, give me a long shot home there. I don't know if it's going to happen. It sure doesn't look like it right now. But again, the Chosen Brawn did just drift out a little bit at the top of the stretch. But nobody's really running on. But that's the thing that's been interesting. So many people focus on big fields on turf at Gulfstream early, and then you got second choice, third choice running 1-2 in a race where they thought it was going to be 30, 40, 50 to 1s, and then the race later it's 50 to 1 on top of 30 to 1. So it's picking the right circuit too, and I guess picking your right spots also.
It is.
So we'll see how things unfold as we do wind down here for day number 2 of NAC 2024. But Dave Nichols, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Best of luck to you tomorrow. It's nice to have that added contest to be able to jump into too. So hopefully you can go in there, make your mark tomorrow, and we'll see kind of how things unfold. We'll see.
Trying to stay positive as long as I can.
Do we need do we have a good shirt tomorrow?
No.
Okay.
Was there a lucky shirt? You don't have like Tiger Woods Sunday Red or anything?
So last year I had a bunch of self-deprecating T-shirts that I wore, that I made. And my friend AJ made me promise until the end of this contest, no more shirts like that. I did have a special shirt picked out if I was going to make the final table.
Okay.
It's not looking like that's going to happen, so we'll probably skip that. But.
Well, you can save it for next year.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. There's always going to be a time for that.
2100 or whatever I get.
Oh, come on now. So you never know. But the cool thing is there's so many opportunities to qualify out here. You see so many people, over 700 qualifiers, 500 players in that. So I'm sure you're going to be able to get back here. Hopefully it's next year.
I hope so.
All right, you got it. Dave Nichols joining us there on day 2 as we are winding things down. Our last mandatory is going to come up at Santa Anita, race number 9. Looking at the board right now, 269 is your leader. We're going to see kind of how the cut line unfolds there. Joe Kasperski is going to be joining us in a little bit as well. Joe's one of those that is kind of hovering around there a little bit, Emily. So we'll see what happens. He's sitting at 60th right now.
What's his dollar amount?
And we're going to see the cut line. He was in the 160s. So that's going to be one of those things. We're looking at the cut line, and I'm going to pull it up right now on my phone. So Joe's up to 170. So he's at 170, 60 as Dave Nichols had now. So he's in 60th place right now, and he's a guy that basically came into the day. We talked to him, and we talked to Carl Broberg. Carl Broberg's at 169.44. So they kind of said that number was going to be right around 170.
Yeah.
It's going to matter on the last mandatory, but we've had multiple players that are right in the mix. Carl Broberg had a little bit of a slow start, and he's sitting there at 169.44.
What does he have? How many plays does he have left?
Well, here's the thing. Because he's a trainer, he's got one additional mandatory left because there was a mandatory that he was not allowed to participate in.
So he has 2 plays.
So he's got 2 plays for the mandatories and based on whatever optionals he has.
That's an interesting spot for him because he's kind of on the bubble right now. He's got 2 plays, and so he's got to be thinking like when he's going to time those plays, how he's going to hit those plays because he's got to make them count,
Right.
and he doesn't have a lot of wiggle room.
Right.
That's a tricky
So
spot.
we'll see how
Carl
things unfold.
Broberg, I
Yep.
That's
Yeah,
what
we
I-
are.
yeah,
Talking about Carl.
What do you think about that
well,
situation?
Well, I mean, it's nice that he has him this late in the game, and he's got options.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
always good to have options now if you're on the bubble.
Right.
Yeah.
So Joe Kasperski joining us. Joe, we know you in the Illinois racing scene, horse trainer, president of the ITHA, guy that's been in racing for your life. Your family has been in racing. You've always been a handicapper and a horse player as well, so you have experience, a lot of contest experience. Today's been a pretty good run for you, wouldn't you say?
It's been decent. We got a little weak the last couple of races, and so we're just hoping that we can come up with a winner at Santa Anita. If we do that, I think we'll have a good chance.
Do you have any optionals
Yeah,
left?
we have one optional we're going to save for one of the last 2 races.
Okay, so you have one optional, you have one more mandatory, and you're sitting there right now. You're 8 minutes to the next race, I believe, for one of the optionals that comes up. You're at 170 right now, right?
Right.
So that's 60th place in there. A lot of people were saying that mark was going to be right around 170. Is that what you were kind of expecting coming into the day?
We were hoping to get 100 points today because we had 81 yesterday.
Okay.
That would put us at 180.
Yep.
And we thought we'd have a shot to get in that.
Okay.
So we're about $10 away with 2 plays to go.
Okay, so you're going to wait for one of the last 2 races for the optional and then
Right.
Santa Anita race
Right.
9.
We're going to do Santa Anita race 9. I'm not sure exactly what horse we're going to take yet. We're going to
What do you need, what are you kind of looking to get out of that race? I mean, you have the handicapping side, plus also like, what are you looking to get out
My
of it? Do you need
goal
like a
is
number?
to get points.
Okay.
That's it. That's the only goal I have. Odds are irrelevant. I'm going to bet the horse I think has the best shot to run 1-2.
Okay.
And it's good to be
So
in
it's
that
just a
position,
whole
though, too.
position.
Yeah.
And we talked about at the start of the day how you kind of said, okay, if I can average a certain amount, if I can come out of it with whatever, $10 out of a
Right.
certain amount of races, then I'm going to be in that position to be able to move forward. So it looks like you've been able to position yourself for that. And then if you do get to that point, then how would you attack moving forward into tomorrow? Is it like, hey, I'm going, it is that push for that final table?
Oh, once I'm in tomorrow, the goal is to get to the final table.
Okay.
And I mean, then I'll be a lot more price sensitive. Not that we weren't today anyway.
Right.
But yeah, we'll be. I'll pay some money for some other help. Like from. I got some magazine sheets
Sure.
today to help me out a little bit, and I got another service I look at just to bounce ideas off. What I like, they like, and just think about the race more.
Right.
And so we'll see what happens.
And it does come into that race strategy a little bit. It comes into what works for everybody as well.
Right.
We talked to some people say, I'm just going to watch the board and see how the board plays. Some that are going to go in with that, okay, this is who I think is going to win, and then kind of work from there. But
Well, yeah, like this race. I thought the Chosen Run would win.
Yeah,
Well,
right.
You can't bet on that.
Right. Well,
But
and-
to
But
get
if you're
$5,
just trying to get points, would that have been that was too low?
it was a little too low.
It was
Yeah.
too low. So
Yeah.
it's get points, but not too low
Yeah,
points. Okay.
yeah.
There's a fine
I
line.
figured that nobody was going to be betting that horse, so if he won, I'm not losing any ground to anybody, or at least anybody that's around me.
Right,
So I'm
right.
not too worried about it.
So let me ask you, Joe, you've played a lot of different tournaments. You played a lot of different types of tournaments. Is there one preference that you have over another between real money, pick and pray, or just this $2 win place?
Well, the real money ones, I'm a little on the cheap side, so I'm a little tentative in those, so I tend not to play them too often.
Okay.
I like the pick and praise on horse tourneys. That's my favorite spot to play on.
Okay.
And horse players,
Yep.
to try to qualify. So those are the ones I like the most, and I try to play in the play-ins,
Yep.
cheap, and it keeps me active over the weekends, and it doesn't cost a lot of money.
Right.
If I see something I like, then I'll put some real money on them.
Okay.
But, I'm not a big cash gambler. I'm just a little gambler.
Sure. And then looking at just having a background in racing, you trained horses for a very long time. Do you feel that provides you any type of benefit on the handicapping end of things? Just kind of knowing tendencies that you've seen out of your race horses throughout the course of the career when you're kind of looking at maybe a pattern on paper?
Right. There's certain horses, okay, you might see a trainer that's a big trainer, and he should be 6-5, and he's 3-1. Why is he 3-1 versus being 6-5 like he's supposed to? And
Sure.
usually I'll throw a horse like that out,
Right.
try to beat him somehow. Horses, one of the things that I like to bet against is first-time starters that run big numbers the first time out, and they're bet down to nothing.
Yep.
Most of the time, they get beat the next time.
Right.
Very few of them win
at a
like
short
that.
price, right?
So that's an angle I like to play a little bit. And then the rest of it is like to bet a little to win a lot. Pick 4s, pick 5s, stuff like that.
Sure. And then atmosphere coming out here. I mean, you're here with your brother.
Right, yeah.
So it's got to be fun just hanging with your brother in Vegas too.
Yeah. We're having a great time. He's been a little sick, but he's feeling better now. If we make tomorrow, I'm sure he'll feel a lot better.
Yeah, of course. That usually makes everyone feel a little better.
He's a good sounding board, and
right.
Like I said, we help each other.
Well, that's a
awesome.
good thing. But it's cool. I mean, it's been a family affair for you guys in Illinois racing for a long time. It's nice for you too that Hawthorne doesn't start till next week,
right?
Because the whole family's doing just different jobs around the racetrack. So this has worked out actually quite nicely for you.
Yeah, my one brother, he's at home. Phil, he works in the jocks room.
Yep.
And he's been there forever. He called me and gave me a horse today. He said, I like this horse. A friend of mine, he's been galloping him. He says he's doing good, and he says, but it'll probably be a short price. And he was 7-2, and I didn't use it. And right now, I wish I would have used it.
So we'll see how things unfold. Yeah. But Joe, we're going to let you get back to the table there, get back to your brother. We want to wish you the best of luck. I mean, you've had a nice run today. Hopefully you're hitting that cut line and then making that big move tomorrow.
I'm crossing my fingers, and we got 2 shots at it, so hopefully it'll work.
Well, that'd be awesome.
Hopefully it will work. Joe Kasperski joining us here on day 2 of NHC 2024. We'll let him get back because there's 5 races to go for everybody for those optionals and mandatory races today. Emily, it has been a very interesting day. We'll take one more recap here before we sign off at the board. Joe's kind of right around that number that it's going to be for the cut line, $170. Carl Broberg, a guy that we talked to, is also right around that number of 170. That's about what we expected going into today a little bit. There was only a couple of cap horses today. I actually thought there'd be a couple more just looking at some of the big fields too.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it kind of came later, and it's so weird in this tournament. I always feel like the cap horses come in bunches.
Yep.
It's like all of a sudden you have one, then all of a sudden 2 minutes later there's another, and it gets people going, it gets out like a little bit of chaos. We knew there's going to be a lot of movement today. The numbers haven't changed that much for a few hours as far as the top 10 number.
Yeah.
Seth Morris had it a little bit. It's going to be, but it's still so tight in there. And there's a lot of players that are in Carl's spot, Joe's spot.
Yep.
And I mentioned them particularly because we've talked to them and that they want to win this tournament. So they're not, they're like, okay, in order to win it, obviously I've got to be playing on day 3.
Yep.
But how much ground you're going to have to make up in order to get there too. So it's so fascinating. This is such a fun tournament from that strategy and how to play standpoint. I just love it.
Carl Broberg and Joe Kasperski. Joe's sitting in 60th place. Carl Broberg is sitting right now in 63rd place, and they're both right around that. And you talk to all right, so Joe's been in racing for a long time. It's a family affair, that kind of stuff. They know kind of a lot about it, all the different aspects. I mean, his brother works on the starting gate. Joe's been a horse trainer. His other brother works in the jocks room. Carl training horses, he talked about how it could be a benefit or a detriment with having to sit out of one of the mandatories earlier. Now he's actually in the driver's seat a little bit because everybody else has 1 mandatory left. He has 2.
Yeah.
So that means somebody else's optional becomes his mandatory. But when he's in a position, he might be able to say, I can go in there and I'm in 63rd. I want to make sure I get to that cut line for sure. It might become a 5-2 type of horse as a horse that he plays, and even if you run second, just to ensure that you get there.
Yeah, well, yes, exactly. You have to make sure that you get there, but you don't know what everybody else is playing and the type of prices that they're playing. So in some sense, you're like, okay, yeah, I only need a 5-2, but the movement.
But
the
if a 20 to 1's on top of that 5-2,
well, and the board is not stagnant, right? It's fluid, and everybody's got plays, and maybe somebody. They can play different things, and taking that short price, you're also going to take, if you run second, that place money might not get you there. So you might think, okay, there's an 8-1.
Yep.
If it wins, that's great.
Right.
If it runs second, that just also kind of keeps me in the place as well, right? Where if 5-2, you're like, you have to win.
Yep.
And sometimes you think, oh, this is a great 5-2.
Sure. One of the things that's been kind of the beauty of today with the NHC is we've talked to so many different types of players, right? Mike Wilkening, he's your weekend warrior type of player. Joe Kasperski's been a lifelong player. Carl Broberg, he's on call 365 days a year for 95 racehorses, and he's a course player. Tony's a professional. Christie's a very good contest player. They're all in contention, even though it's kind of a different aspect for how they get there. You can be that weekend warrior and come to the NHC, and you can make your mark, or you can be a professional player and be in that same spot. We'll see how things kind of unfold when we get to tomorrow after the cut line, but I'll be curious to see what kind of movement there is tomorrow too.
Yeah, you see a lot more, like Tony said, at the final table when you're in that top 10, it really becomes game theory more than like if you're taking a shot, or even if you make a mistake and it works out, it can still get you in position, but at the final table, that gets you a little bit more exposed. Yeah, the last race we're going to be following here is race number 7 at Golden Gate, which is running right now. Now there is a 70-1 on the lead with a 15-1 chasing it, so I'm going to be curious to see kind of how things unfold here, because you have 3 prices up there on the lead. So this room either gets really loud with some people who have been chasing, or you're going to see some of the favorites kind of run in there and pick it off. Well, you have the 1 to 2 that's stalking, so the 1 to 2 sitting in a good spot right now. I think that's why everybody's kind of quiet. Right. And that's a horse. That's a horse that affects so many people from so many different realms. It's defensive. Yep. Because nobody's playing it, there's no point, so this race just becomes a wash. So the horse that's the key horse in this race could be the 1 horse who's ranging up on the outside, because this is a horse that can contend with the 1 to 2 shot, but provide movement for a lot of people here. So there's probably people that are excited in 2 different ways as the favorite tries to draw clear. But it's going to be a matter of who runs second in this spot and what it does for those players, not only on the cut line, but also for those that were chasing all the way to the end. So we'll see kind of how things unfold. It does look like the favorite gets the job done, though. Yeah, the room was pretty quiet. We heard a little towards the end, but yeah, I think this was probably a race that, some of the probably more creative players, because there's, in a race like that, probably most people are going to sit out. Right. That there's probably somebody who's saying, most people are going to sit out. If something comes in right now, I might be one of the few, but your probability of that happening is also low, because it did seem like a pretty legitimate shot. Yeah, so we'll see how things wind up here as we wind up our coverage for day 2 of NHC 2024. Tomorrow, Emily, our focus is going to be on a couple of things. That top 10%, those top 77 players, and how things are going to unfold to get to that final table, the amount of Hawthorne qualifiers, Hawthorne contestants, and Chicago qualifiers as well. And some $1 million bonuses are in with a shot. The $1 million bonus is in the mix there, as you're seeing horses actually run into the stretch here at Turfway Park. So there's a little excitement because there's some numbers up there. So it's these last shots that people are taking too, trying to get in and make that mark. You're looking at a 9-1 right now on top of a 6-1. So again, minor movement may not be so minor. That 9-1 shot gives somebody $30. Right, and then it puts somebody like Joe and Carl possibly making their hurdle even a little bit bigger. Right. Where Joe a couple minutes ago, when everything was what it was like, I just need to get points. Right. He might be like, okay, I don't need to get points anymore. I need to get 5-1 or higher. Right. It's like, that's what I was saying. This game is it's constantly changing. It's like what you think it is now isn't what it's going to be when you need it. Yep. And then you're going to have to adjust. Yeah, it's going to be an exciting final day of NHC 2024. We're going to have a lot of coverage tomorrow. It's going to be coverage in the morning of that lead up to the final table. And Emily, full coverage of the final table. Race strategy. We'll throw some handicapping nuggets in there. We'll have some guests throughout the course of the day. This is going to be a lot of fun tomorrow. Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It feels like day 40, but it'll be day 3, and yes, we'll always have fun. Yeah, we will have fun. We want to thank everybody for tuning in today. Make sure you tune in to our Hawthorne YouTube channel tomorrow for live coverage on the final day of NHC 2024. It's going to be so much fun. There's going to be a lot of excitement. But thank you again for tuning in today, and we'll see you from the Horseshoe tomorrow here on YouTube. Good night.